And good afternoon, everybody! How are you today? It's the Boomer and Hurricane Show on this Friday, December 11th.
I think it's the 11th.
11th, 2020. How you doing today, Mike? How are you? Hello, Boomer. Hurricane here, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Thank you for joining us on Boomer Show.
Thanks for coming in, buddy.
Yeah, thank
We're
you.
going to roll with that one. I hope you know that.
Right. Do what you got to do.
Dude, so we already talked about this, but I got to show everybody this.
Go ahead.
Dude, you came in with not just water, but hurricane water. Came in with a Christmas card and hurricane pictures. Back to blue sweatshirts.
Absolutely, 100%.
Can't forget the hurricane hand sanitizer.
2020.
And who doesn't need a coffee mug with the hurricane force on it? That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas.
And the best is right over your left shoulder, man. An awesome shot of the hurricane in action.
There it is.
That's awesome, man.
There it is. That would be Tim Vandenberg driving. That was the Barnegat Bay race.
Wait
right
a
there.
second. The world famous Tim Vandenberg.
That's right.
And I just
making me crazy,
dude.
Tim
So
Vandenberg.
tell me a little bit. We'll kick this off. We'll kick this off with this. Tell me a little bit about how you got started, because when you came in, you did come in like a hurricane, buddy. So what pushed you into this?
Well, a long time ago, back in the 70s, there was a Benihana around here. And I
Might have heard of it.
A little bit. There's a little race around here. I grew up in this area. We lived up in Essex County, and my family moved down here in the late 70s, and offshore racing began in my life then. Growing up around boats, we were the second house on Aldo Drive, which is in Silverton. My grandmother bought the house there, and my grandfather had a boat. And from that point on, boating became my life. Now, let's fast forward. My Uncle Frank Civitano, who worked for Typhoon, now he's down in Florida, running a yacht for some wealthy young man, got me involved more into the performance racing. Long story short, I've always wanted to race. My whole life, I've always wanted to race. I love boats. My father had boats. He had the Donzi. We still have a 27 Donzi now. I enjoy racing.
What was racing then, though? Like, when you say you always wanted to race, what was racing when you found that out?
To me, racing was watching these. They're like celebrities, if you would.
Right.
I go to Point Pleasant. People want pictures. They want, like you felt like, I need to see that boat. I need to see this person. I want to be that person. Like, it was like a local celebrity. But back then, it was the 80s now. And it was Miami Vice. You see the performance boats on TV. You hear the loud noises. You go onto the Point Pleasant beach. You watch the race. You're like, wow, this is cool. And you saw them once and they were gone. And that was the day. We'd go to the inlet and watch all the boats go in and out the inlet. Like, this is awesome. But it was also a family thing.
Right.
And I think that's what drew me to it, is because looking back now, it was the family aspect of everything that happened.
Right.
My grandfather, my father, my mother, my brothers, my sisters. My brother still has pictures of autographed pictures of the Benihana. Like what we have now is our hero cards. They had actual pictures,
right,
and was like, wow, I got Benihanas. This is cool. I got wild turkey. This is awesome.
Right.
While they're out in the bay, you don't realize it, but they're out in the bay running around every weekend. But during the race, they were like professionals. So to me, that's who I wanted to be.
Right.
But not knowing later on what it would become.
Right.
Because, through my career, I went to a military school for high school. My father was a Navy SEAL back in the 60s. He was UDT.
Hey, hang on one second. Just pull that mic up a little closer to you.
There you go.
There you go.
Right.
Don't be afraid to pull it up to you, man.
I don't like to touch the
Everybody
mic.
wants to hear what you're saying. Go ahead. Your father was a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, so he was a Navy SEAL, and I went to military school. I want to see if I was going to follow his footsteps. I got to get a drink here. I'm getting a little dry mouth here.
The hurricane force water.
Yep, Category 5. Almost. And long story short, I loved weather. Meteorology, that's why hurricane became hurricane. Went to college, Kane University, now it's Kane University, it was Kane College. Played football there for 1 year, so I was a Cougar, a Kane Cougar. The wife won't wear that shirt. But I went in to be a meteorologist. It was one of the few schools I could play, actually football, Division III football, and study meteorology, because only Penn State was the only other local school that had meteorology, and I'm not, wrong size for Division I football. And football didn't last, and so didn't meteorology, because after seeing how much studying it took and the opportunities, because the Weather Channel was just fairly new at that time, and you know, CBS, NBC, blah, 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 and there was not a lot of opportunity. And I kind of missed, because I went to Catholic school from 7th to 8th grade, then I went to military school, which was uniforms every day. I went to college, people are looking at me like, what are you wearing? You're still cuffing your jeans? I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with that? Like, I had no idea what to dress because I wore a uniform every day.
Right.
I missed the uniform. And I kind of like, wow, I like that structure. So I went into law enforcement. So that's what became my law enforcement. Now, where did meteorology come from this? Well, 9/11 happened. And that day I was working. And when the second plane hit the South Tower, they put a broadcast out for anybody who can come over here, get over here. So I asked my chief, who was Michael Erb at the time, and he said yes. So, you know, myself, John Drum, Greg Drux, went over there to the South Tower, and that early afternoon we walked into the World Trade Center, which will forever change my life. Now, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I'll take pictures of everything in law enforcement. I take pictures of everything. That day, something, and Dave Minto also told me not to bring, at that time we didn't have cell phone cameras or anything, we just had to take the disposable cameras. I didn't bring it. I'm happy to this day I never brought that, because I don't want to look at it. I can't talk about 9/11 that much. I can't see anything about it, because what we saw that day and the pain that this country went through that day is still, to me, hurts. I haven't been in New York since then. It was a very tough time. I liked how the country came together after that.
Right.
To me, I felt proud. And I remember I had a Nextel, and I actually called my mother that night and I said, Mom, this is like my personal Vietnam for my father. To me, this was like, I can't believe this is our country. Just seeing completely everything covered in white in New York City. Just seeing firemen laying down, seeing trucks crushed, just seeing things that you're just not right. Hearing alarms go off, like, it was just, it's overwhelming.
Right.
And as an officer, the worst part about 9/11 was that we saved nobody.
Right.
I didn't find one body, we didn't save anybody. And I think that's what hurt me the most, even going through all this, is that on that day, we went over there to help, and we helped nobody.
Right.
And it takes a long time for you to understand that you really couldn't have.
Right.
You know, it was that big of a disaster. But what made me more reassuring later on in life was that you realized how we all came together as a country, as a world, and we said, you know what, we're going to fight this, we're going to come together, no matter who you are, where you are, we came together. Even in law enforcement, we came together. And to me, that helped me, because, again, still to this day, 9/11 is a painful day. And then COVID comes. But let's go back to racing. I say this because 9/11 is what started the hurricane force detailing.
Well, and just 1 second before we jump right back off that, is something that was so odd to me was to see the morale of New York City that day is extra astonishing, because that is one of the toughest places. Not tough in like tough guy tough as in just tough people. You know, hardened people. If you live in New York City, you work in New York City, there's a toughness about you just to survive going in there every day, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then to see how that can be stripped away and everybody can be so vulnerable was extra weird for me, because I was maybe five. I was 7 years old.
Wow.
And so at 7, it was odd, because my aunt, when I was a kid, we used to have my Aunt Tony. We used to have Tony and Boomer Day, and she'd pick me up and we'd go in the city, and we would go to Little Italy and get all the cheese wheels that we want, you know, and go do a Broadway show, hit Carmine's for dinner, come home. That's what we did all the time. That was our favorite thing to do, and those towers were my favorite thing. And I got kind of accustomed to enjoying the people of New York City, enjoying New Yorkers. I just enjoyed the way they talked. I enjoyed the way they walked into each other and nobody cared. You know, I just thought it was crazy. And then to be there, I was there September 10th. I was there September 10th, 2001, racing in front of the trade centers, watching my old man run the old Viper. And to see what happened there, and then to see, you know, all the repercussions of it was impactful for a young kid. And just while we're on that topic, it's odd to me that now we have children born after 2001 that are fighting that war 18, 19 years later. It's incredible. You know, it's just it is such a profound time in American history that I feel so many people are forgetting about, you know.
You're absolutely 100% right. You know, that day is very difficult and will always be difficult for everybody in this country, for all of us that were there. I don't care who you are. I know people that have went over there with their trucks, their dump trucks, like the Venero brothers. They went over there with their Mark and Bob. They brought their trucks over there to help clean up the debris.
I know folks within OPA that were there shuttling people back and forth from Liberty State Park with boats, and it was a truthfully profound is probably an understatement. It was a I don't know what you call that day. There's no word to describe it.
Miserable.
Miserable is probably as close as you can get.
It's something that I think everybody needs to remember, because that was our lowest point. That was just, we didn't expect that. And
that was our age's Pearl Harbor.
Yes. You're absolutely right. And it changed me as a police officer. At that point, I came in on 95, started living. So I had 5 years in as a cop at that point.
Right.
And that day changed me, because I'll never forget walking down Canal Street. To my right was John Kelly. To my left was Dave Minto, and then Greg Drux was to the right of John Kelly. And going into the Holland Tunnel through the exit, entering the city through the exit, I remember hearing, as we walk down the valley of death, that's what came through my head in New York City.
Right.
Because here it is, Canal Street, midnight. It's cool out. Everything is still open, but it's closed and covered in white. And it was eerie. And a check, literally a blank check, flew right in front, fell on the ground. I pick it up. I see the name. I looked at it, put it back down because it's history, and I remembered the name. And later on, I went back and looked up that name, and that gentleman passed away from the 9/11 tragedy. And I put my uniform immediately the next day, put my uniform immediately into a plastic encased bag, my boots, my shirt, everything, and put it away. Because I didn't know what exactly we were breathing in. We brought gas masks in. We gave them to the firemen that are actually going into the towers. We got yelled at by one of the fire commanders by going into one of the towers, saying, you can't go in there. There's still stuff falling, even though the debris is all over. It was mucky, it was hot. They said, you can't go in there. You have to go to the school, register in, and then we'll get, search and rescue teams. At that point, it wasn't search and recovery, it was search and rescue. And we went over there, and at that point, we were just shot out, because it was just everything visually, everything. The smell was horrendous. The fire alarms that were going off, seeing burnt steel bent through buildings, like in the federal building next door to, the South Tower. It's you'll never forget it, and it, again, that changed me as an officer, not because of what I've seen, but what the potential of life can do to somebody, or a community, or a state, or a country, if not the world. And it made me stronger. Emotionally, it made me weaker, because it takes a while to recover. It takes a while. And I think part of a lot of law enforcement is people see us as, you're wearing a uniform, you represent strength and courage and power. I'm the same guy. If I go home and I see a mouse on the floor, I'm the first guy on the table. My wife's looking for the mouse. Oh, there's a mouse. I'm jumping up on the table. Oh. But as soon as I put that uniform on and somebody calls, hey, I got a raccoon in my backyard, I'm like, man, I got it.
Time to
I'll
go to
take
work.
care of it. Yeah, it's like, I'm here to help you. But in the same, I'm still human. We're humans, That day kind of made me realize what life is really all about. I mean, I'm only in my 20s at that point. I had an Nextel, and I'm giving it to firemen so they could call their wives.
Right.
And it just realized how vulnerable we are.
Right.
Here it is, 19 years later, and that's me. Yeah, that's me. That's my Sergeant Mike Herbert. Thank you for calling me, Mike. Hopefully it's not a fatal accident. I'll find out through a text. It's definitely, I don't know. I still have a hard time talking about the World Trade Center, as you could probably, see it in my face. That's where I kind of have to, in law enforcement, you have to realize that what we see and what we deal with every day, you need to talk about it. You really do. Yeah. But you also have to put it away, because you have to go home to the kids. You have to go home to your wife. And what you saw and what you dealt with for that day, you have to now deal with what's going on at home without having that interfere with your day.
Right.
Or their problems or the kids' problems, because you don't want them to feel the pain that you have to deal with.
Right.
Because Most of the time you're having a good day. Most of the time in law enforcement, there's no issues. It's just normal life, normal problems. You can deal with it. In every job that you have, you can deal with your problems. You know how to work it out. Sometimes in law enforcement, you'll get that point where you have to decide, like, wow, this is a big decision.
Right.
And you see the worst in people, and you see the best in people as well.
Right.
And again, 9/11 is one of those moments that I'm still tackling till this day, because I know I'll be 100% over it when I could put on Channel 2 or Channel 4 or one of the mainstream medias and watch the actual ceremonies going on about the fall. And I can't. I mean, I can't watch documentaries on it. It's a painful time.
Right.
And I think I understand now why my father would never talk about the war.
Right.
When I was growing up, mainly he was being a Navy SEAL, talking about everything he did. He spoke about the good things, like when John Glenn came down, and he was one of the divers that was there to get John Glenn out of the capsule. He was one of the Navy divers. Those were the good things. When you're young, you want to hear about the war. You want to hear. I realize now, mostly 25 years into law enforcement, why you don't.
Right.
It's because it's just part of life.
Right.
And you got to move on.
But there's a interesting thing there. And just 1 second before I move on, try to sneak your mic up like my height here, up closer to your.
There you go.
Yeah, just the closer you can get it. Is that thing loose on you?
Yeah.
Roll the mic, this thing right here, to the right. That tightens it so it won't. You actually got to turn the whole mic, and then just kind of kick it. Yeah, there you go. That'll help you out a little bit. So if it falls on you, that's this one. I have an issue with these things every show I do, buddy. Don't worry about it. But something interesting there that when you said that, I understand why he didn't talk about the war. There's a thing that needs to be talked more about, and that's people that are capable of talking about it. And it has nothing to do with knocking down people that think maybe that they, like yourself, you have a hard time talking about it. That it shouldn't apply any pressure to you to talk about it. But the people that do, the people that are capable should, because people like me, people watching the show, people just in everyday life have no idea. Just no clue the mental struggle that people live with every day from things like that. They think it was a newsreel 10 years ago and it's out of their head, but you were there. You were the newsreel. And people don't people just have a bad way of compartmentalizing things like that, where they just put it away and they don't realize the importance of it and why. Think about how many kids come out of high school and you ask them, did you like history? No. What do I need to learn history for? It's history. Because it's very important to make sure you don't repeat those mistakes. Like 9/11 was a massive mistake. It should have never happened. This country is so well defended. Look at the Pentagon. How in the world does a plane make it to the Pentagon? You know what I mean? That is the most secure building on Earth. It was a mistake that we needed to learn from as a nation. And the only way to do that is talking to people about it, because people really don't know. They don't have that education. You can't, sitting here listening to you talk about 9/11, as much as I've studied 9/11 extensively, and I learned something from you that wasn't even in fruition with words. It was your emotion there that I learned something about that day just from listening to you and feeling you talk about it. It puts a whole nother level of importance into the subject, right? From somebody who was there. And people that are learning like me of not that I'm out to learn everything about 9/11, right? But it's important to me to listen to you talk about that. And you're 100% right that people do need to talk about it. There's that funny meme that goes around, like how black guys deal with problems. I'm all right. And it's funny because you cops got the same thing going on, man. You got to come home and I'm all right, everything, and it's a tough gig, man. I just did 2 shows with Steve-O, trying to do my best to back the blue here, man. It's very disheartening for just an average American, let alone a police officer like yourself, to see what's going on in the world, the disrespect, it's despicable is what it is. That's the word. It's despicable what they've done to the police.
It hurts. It really does hurt.
Is your mic muted by any chance?
I'm going to take a look. Yep, it sure is.
There you go.
It hurts. But what you're also seeing is not reality as well. there's a lot of people that come up to us every day and say, thank you for your service.
Right.
You know, every race, every gender, thank you. Thank you, officer. We appreciate everything you do, but you don't see that. You know, that's not making the headlines. You know, there are a lot of people that do support us. There's a tremendous amount of support for law enforcement, but it's just not seen right now.
Well, and that's great. It is. But there's a major difference between the support that the police needed 50 years ago and the support that the police need now. They tried to draw a correlation in the last couple months about, you know, everything that went on across the country, all these riots and craziness of peaceful protest, right? And whether you were trying to take that down or promote the fact that, or it was not a fact, obviously, but a peaceful protest. Either side of that you were on, you were talking about something that had never been done before, had never been seen before. When you look at things like the hippies putting flowers in the National Guard's M16s, right? That's a peaceful protest. What we had was the LA riots from California to New Jersey. And that is not a peaceful protest. And the way they've assassinated the police's character in this country is honestly, I can't even believe that it's happened the way it's happened. It's, you know, the fallout from the last 8 months is going to last a lifetime.
We went from hero to zero in a matter of, you know, a moment,
yeah.
Which to all of us know that moment that happened, all of us know that was a disgusting act that happened.
Yeah.
There's not a cop in this world, not a police officer in this world that feels any different than what I just said, because that is the absolute truth. What happened out there on that godforsaken day should have never happened. But that doesn't represent the entire law enforcement community.
Right, talking about George Floyd,
right.
For those that don't put two and two together there. It's an incredibly hard gig, and I feel for you guys, man. It's a job. It's thankless. It's, you know, as much as you say that people thank you, that's not enough.
Right. Well, you know what it is? It comes down to, I got a ticket, and that's what makes us a bad guy, you know. But at the same point, 25 years doing this, I go to car crashes. My expertise is in fatal accident reconstruction. And watching law enforcement or car accidents in the last 25 years, how the technology, the engineering evolved, that 25 years ago, and this is just 25 years ago, some of our viewers here, that 25 years is, you know, you're a young man, still 25 years. Technology has changed that. You see car crashes today, and the car is, like I showed you a few examples, the car is gone, but the people walked out of it. That is a success in my world, that you're able to walk out of that car crash rather than us having to do notifications and measurements and going through autopsies and finding out if somebody passed away from the car crash or if it was something medical before the car crash. Technology, and that's where law enforcement, people don't understand that part of our job, mostly, like I've been in traffic division for 18 years, and in my area, it's all about safety. And if I can make somebody in that town safer, in that location safer by reducing speed, by adding speed humps, by, doing more enforcement or having more, visual enforcement, perception. Everybody knows when you go on the parkway, you know where the trooper spots are. And it's funny, you're going 80, 85 on the parkway, you get up towards Hazlitt 114, you know the trooper stops on the left, everybody starts slowing down, you get up to 170. That's good because you're actually slowing people down, you're reducing speed. And then one person who doesn't know and they get caught, and then, hey, the cop pulled me over for doing 90, everybody's doing 90. Yeah, okay. Education, to me, is being able to take what I know, what I can do, and making the community, the state, the township, the county safer. And that's the most important part to me. It's not about summonses. Cops are not, yes, there are cops out there that, the old quote, they would write their own mother a ticket. Yeah, that happens. That's in every department, every county, every state, every sheriff's department. That happens. But law enforcement is there to help. And again, summonses aren't made. We don't get paid to write tickets. We don't know. We are there to make the community safer. And I think that's where people get the perception of why cops are the way they are, because we just want to help everybody go home at night. We want everybody to be safe. We want the kids to be able to play. One thing during COVID, and I don't understand this, sidewalks have COVID because everybody's walking in the streets. The sidewalks are empty, but everybody's in the streets, and everybody's complaining, these cars are speeding. Well, you're in the street. So to me, it's just like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Walk on the sidewalk. No. So Yeah, law enforcement, it's a changing career like everything. It's tough times for us, yes. We'll get through it.
Yeah.
Education will be a big part of the law enforcement community in the future, and I do believe we do need more education and more training with a lot of things. I think sometimes we get away from things because it just it doesn't fit into criteria. But I look forward to the future of law enforcement, mostly with the newer guys, because now they can communicate with the younger generation, where the older generation needs to understand that these guys know what they're doing, and let's get them educated and trained.
Yeah, but there's a very, very important thing there. The new guys do need to take some of those small cookies from the old guys, because, like, I can remember being a kid. I think most kids in America went through the DARE program, right? And just the guy that happened to run the DARE program at my school happened to be a dynamite dude. And I can remember, like, growing up through high school, and you'd always see him and be like, that was the DARE guy, and like he'd pull you over and he'd be like, what are you doing, and then like, shit, I failed him. It's like, and every time he'd offer a ride home, and like it was just very old school, very, it wasn't about the pushing the tickets and the driving up the revenue, and
Right.
it was just about taking care of his community, and that's really what the job's about. I understand that there's a lot of politics that have woven their way into it. I understand there's a lot of influences that have woven their way into it. But at the end of the day, the job of a police officer is to protect, serve and protect. And the young generation is going to grow up in a very hostile environment. And it needs to be passed down the line that we're not your enemy.
Right, I agree. Absolutely, I agree 100% with you.
It takes a special person to do your job. It does. It takes a special person at any level to acquire more power than another human being. It does. It takes a lot of heart to swallow your pride and not use your executive power over somebody else, right? It takes a lot. And I think that a lot of the issues that you see in police today, that are arising today, I should say, you ever notice it's not these 20-year-old kids or these 55-year-old, on the cusp of retiring cops? It's always like right in the middle. It's the cops that came up through the late 80s, 90s, that kind of had the free run of the joint and got a little out of control with it.
And I think training is a lot. I think mostly departments that have great training and they have a good, it goes back a while. It could be even just from field training from your day one. De-escalation is the biggest thing. Being able to not turn yourself into the moment, but become the guy that takes that moment and brings everybody down. I think, leaders are always, everybody wants a true leader. Everybody wants somebody to lead and take control. And every officer, every person has that leadership quality. They just have to find it. As cops, it's the same thing. You always have to maintain your I don't know how to say. You just got to maintain your cool, and you got to just de-escalate everything, and you can really make a difference by not getting your emotions involved. Yes, there's situations sometimes that, a shooting, this and that's completely different. You get tunnel vision. Jesus, you get tunnel vision, but experience and training is the two important factors in law enforcement. Those are very large two factors that every cop needs to know, that as you grow, you get experience, and experience is big in law enforcement.
Right.
That's why sometimes they call them rookie mistakes, but you learn from this. And again, a lot of today in law enforcement, what you see on TV, it's disgusting. It shouldn't be going on. But I look forward to the future that things will get better. Yeah, because you can only hope. You can only hope in this profession that things get better. In everything.
It's going to get better.
Even with COVID, everything's going to get better.
There's something special about where we are right now, and it's that we can only go up.
Yeah, that's it.
It's tough. Whether you were right, left, in the middle, if you were a police officer or a rioter, I don't give a shit who you were. Everybody's dealing with a really shitty time right now, and it can only get better. It can, can it get worse? Of course, but it's not going to. Everybody's a little worked up. It's been
A little bit.
It's been a couple years of a little bit of craziness, and like as much as I love the dude, Trump definitely, prodded some nerves and some, and some crybabies, and then I think it's funny I've been talking about this tribal instinct for years, and everybody laughs at me when I say it, and you're finally seeing it, where people have this burning desire to be on a team. You know what I mean? And like as soon as Trump got in, there was the Trumpers and the anti-Trumpers, and it's just hilarious to me, like because you're talking about a flash in the pan, man. Like I love the guy, I love what he did. That's just my personal opinion, but it's done in 4 or 8 years.
Right,
It's not forever. It's not. You know what is forever? When you burnt down your neighbor's grocery store when you were in the middle of a riot. What's forever is when you drag a guy out of his pickup truck and kick him in the head and kill him in the street in front of his wife. That shit is forever, and it's got to stop. It's got to get better.
Well, I can tell you one thing about here in New Jersey, that during the heat of this in the late spring.
Is that thing falling on you again?
It's falling.
Dude, pick it right up in front of your face. Take this black knob and twist it until you think you're going to break the fucking thing.
I guess this is post-editing right here.
Nah, it's cool, man. Dude, look, this show, it was never intended to be something serious, buddy.
We got serious pretty quick here.
We're just in here having fun.
Mike, how you doing, Mike? Okay, dog. Hi.
So, in talking about getting better, let's get better. So, while we're on the topic of police, you were involved in something pretty awesome when I first met you.
Oh, was I?
Yeah, man, that TV show Jacked.
Oh, Jack, that was 2000. That was early 2000s. Yeah, my memories. I'm losing my memory. So yeah, it was in the early 2000s. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Auto Theft Task Force, Essex Union Auto Theft Task Force.
Well,
yes.
I remember walking in and meeting you in your shop there in the Hurricane headquarters, and I just thought what you did was awesome, man. And so why don't you explain a little bit about what that show was for people who didn't see it?
Well, prior to the show, there was this organization up in Essex and Union County. It was called, going after stolen cars. It was the Auto Theft Task Force, Essex Union, ATTF. And really, all of your job was, it was based by 2 counties in New Jersey here, recovering stolen cars. And sometimes you'd be running plates and they're right in front of you, and then you have to tactically recover the car. It became later on to a TV show, which then later became another TV show, which I think it was, I forgot the name. One of you guys will remind me later on. Anthony Trader and Ullman, who were on this show all the time, you guys will remind me. A hot car or something like that. But Jack became an A&E special. And it was really a time, and it's starting now. So let me give you a warning for everybody out right now, because this is true, and I don't care where you are. What's going on right now in the world, and I'll give you a little, law enforcement update. Lock your car doors every night. I'm a victim of that over the summer. I didn't, and yes, they went through my car, but they didn't get the key fob. Make sure you bring your key fobs and your valet key. Older cars have valet keys within their dealership packages, and most people don't take them out, and they're looking for that so they can steal your car. But now they're going to the point where they're walking up to your front door and seeing if it's unlocked. And they're walking into your house just wanting to get your car keys. This is what's going on right now. They don't care if you're home or not. They don't care if you have the Ring or any other camera system. They want your car. They're literally walking into your house getting your car keys. So car thefts are up because it's an easy way of making money in the chop shops in many inner cities that we have. And that was part of Jacked back in the day, is that it became a show because this is real. I mean, we have... Literally, they had Bait Car. Thank you, Joe. Good job, Joe. Good job. That was me. Bait Car was a show after Jack, where they actually rigged up a car with cameras with kill switches in it. The suspect would hop in a car, start driving, and the car would lock and shut off. And even though we have the cameras and even though everything's going on...
Hold on, because now this is where I think everybody, including me, is thinking the same thing. Is that entrapment? No, right?
It's a cousin's car.
Right.
This is my cousin's car. They told me to pick it up. No, it's not entrapment. Because you entered a stolen vehicle. You entered a vehicle that's not yours.
It's not yours,
not
right?
Yours. But I won't say 90% of the time, but maybe 95% of the time, the person inside the car would say that it was a relative or a friend's car and they were there to pick it up.
Right.
That at that point
Guilty.
makes you guilty. I mean, I hate to say it. But... in our world, that's great because nobody got hurt. nobody was put into a situation,
Right.
including the community, because when officers, one of the biggest things in law enforcement is the chase.
Right.
And unfortunately, some pursuits end up in a very bad way, car crashes. That's the last thing you would ever want. And supervisors as well as officers have to make that call at that minute to break off a chase. You're into it. It's a stolen car. You're running. They're taking off. You got them. You have to always be around of your surroundings. The weather, where this happened, it's near a school. You have to break it off. And the hardest thing is they're that close to that close. You have to break it off. In that situation, no.
Who makes that call? Is that you or dispatch?
The officer makes that call. Supervisor, you always have to be broadcasting. But you as an officer, as you get experience, let me get a drink here. I got cotton mouth.
Yeah, but
my lips getting stuck here. As I drink my hurricane water, only found in Tom's River. Oh, wait a minute. We're not going to talk about the Tom's River water. We'll talk about that another time. Officers have to make that call. You have to use that. This is where experience and time comes in. That when you start a chase, somebody takes off on you, you have to know your surroundings. If you're around a school and this car is now going up to 80, 85 miles an hour and there's kids outside, you better shut those lights off. And shut the.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're recovering recovering a $5,000 Civic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get it.
If there's a felony, if there's a murder, if there's a kidnapping, you still have to use all that parameters. And a supervisor as well, sitting behind a desk, that's not even able to see what's going on, has to listen and determine at that point all these different factors. And unfortunately, sometimes crashes do occur, and most times they don't, which is great. In the end, it's all about training. Going back to Jack, that show was based on just recovering stolen motor vehicles, and you got a little glimpse of what really goes on, mostly when cars are stolen and how people act. And again, it's just a car. That's the one thing in life that most people don't realize. It's just a car. Like when people get in car crashes, my father's going to kill me, mom's going to kill me, it's just a car. Don't worry about it. You're okay.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. You're okay. And you realize that in time that it's okay. It's just property. You're going to be all right. But if you don't deal with that, and this is the biggest thing that ever happened to your life, that you had a car crash or somebody stole your car, it's traumatic. But as officers, we've seen so much different things. Yeah, it's just a car. It's going to be all right. Don't worry about it. Yeah. But no, that was a great show. That was a great program. Yeah. It's funny because I learned a lot more of Newark. We didn't have phones with GPS on them at that time.
Right.
And they give me a map, and I don't know anything about Newark. All right, we're chasing 1015, which is a stolen motor vehicle. 1015 South 15th Street. I'm like, get my map out like this and go to them. All right, I'm on 15th. No, you're on 15th Ave, now 15th Street. I'm like, what? Okay. Well, now I'm driving around in Irvington. I'm looking for him. Like, oh, there he went. Oh, wow. So it's kind of hard, but you got to learn all this. And then you find where chop shops were, and it was a cool experience. And as an officer, you learned a lot.
Right.
As Joe Biden, I learned a lot. I got hairy legs. I learned a lot. No, never mind. Folks, look, here's the deal. No, Jack was a good show. And some of the guys that I worked with on Jack as cops also helped me detail. Because going back to 9/11 real quick, that's what started me out as detailing. Because after 9/11, it was that later spring. It's getting warm out. I'm living in Tom's River. And Marine Unlimited wasn't there at the time. It was called Typhoon. And it was the old Silverton yachts on Kettle Creek Road.
Right, not to be confused with the offshore team Typhoon.
Right, Typhoon, exactly. It was the old yachts where they built Silverton yachts. It was built in Silverton, which is part of Tom's River, New Jersey. And I decided to drive in there one day because it's always been like this distant area. And I didn't know it was a marina. Never knew it. So I drove in there, and one thing led to another. I met the owner, Bob Christie, who ended up owning Typhoon Performance Marine. And I met all the Chuck Burke, who was there, who used to race. Chuck Burke was a throttleman for Runaway.
Yeah.
And Steve Pollock, he was a navigator. Chipsy! That's what he would say to me. And we were talking to Frank Savatello. My uncle was there.
Way to go, by the way. I would have messed that one up.
Oh.
I knew that, but it took me a while to figure that one out.
And Dave Patnoid. And that's when I first met Dave through the NJPPC.
Right.
And the first thing he said to me is like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like,
big guy.
The big guy, yeah. what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just walking around. Like, oh, we have a poker run coming. What's a poker run? Oh, well, go to the restaurant and Bob will give you a run. And he had an hour limit at the time. I'm like, I don't know who this Bob is. So I'm like, okay. So I go over to the water's edge, which was something different at the time. And I hop on a boat with all these strangers, like I just mentioned, Bob, Christy, his complete family were all kids in the boat. His wife, Madeline, Chuck, and he ended up blowing a motor, and we had to come on one motor from like Barnegat Inlet all the way up to Point Pleasant. And I ended up talking with Chuck. And when I got back, Dave Patton was like, hey, how was it? I'm like, this is a cool boat. What is an hour limit? Like, I had no idea. And we explained it. Bob goes, hey, you want to clean a boat? I'm like, clean a boat? He goes, yeah, you can make money cleaning boats. I'm like, okay, sure. He says, yeah, come by on Mondays. And Dave comes up to me and goes, Joe, pats me on the top of my head. Yeah, what's up, Dave? He goes, yeah, why don't you start cleaning boats? I'm like, okay. Well, Frank Civitano comes up, hey, I got boats lined up for you Monday. I'm like, what do you do? I had no idea. He says, well, you got a detail. I'm like, what's that mean? I don't know. And eventually I learned what it meant and became Hurricane Force Detailing. Bob Christie owned the business up to about 2006, I believe, and that's when Mike Fusco, who owns Jet Set, bought it. Meanwhile, I took what used to be Typhoon. They had a garage there on that property. Tower Power was they had the biggest garage there. They had the Tower Power was, they moved out, and Bob moved Typhoon into there, and I took over Typhoon's old garage, and that's where the old Hurricane, headquarters was.
Right.
And then when Bob sold it to Mike Fusco, I remained there. And then throughout the years, from all the different organizations that were in, or marinas that were in there, from Trent Marine to Arrow, now, Marina Unlimited with Pat Romeo and Mike, they're doing very well. And I moved out of that area. Fusco has another location, which is right on the other side of the street. It's a private road there. And that's where I'm now, Beacon Road. I'm right on there. I have my own little shop there. That's where Hurricane headquarters is, where the race boat's tucked away really nice and warm for the winter. That's how my detailing started. But during that time I wanted to get into racing.
Right.
And that's when I met Mark Henderson.
The man.
Yeah, man. Mark told me about Jay Moeller had a boat. He goes, look, you want to race? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, I have this boat I need you to detail it. He goes, you want to race? I'm like, yeah, I want to race. He goes, look, this guy Jay has a boat. He's up in Bergen County. I don't think he's doing anything. Hold on.
Plug break.
Yep. Dry mouth. I don't think he's doing anything with it. So that's when I first met Jay Moeller. And went all the way up north, looked at the boat, didn't know what I was looking at. It was a 24-foot something. It had a motor in it and 2 skater seats in it. And Jay's like, look, here's what I want for it. You want it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Hooked up to the truck. My buddy Jimmy Jardot and I hooked it up down the parkway with no lights. And now I just bought what would now be the Hurricane Force, which was a 1973 P&D. Not realizing later on how many people were actually working on that boat prior to me even buying it.
When you got it, was it orange?
It was orange, yep.
So I watched that boat go together.
There you go.
It went together right here.
Did it really?
Yeah, Waltman and Muller had a shop right here in Lightning Jacks that they used to have, together for a little while over here, just doing race stuff. And, and I'm pretty sure I watched that boat go together. That's interesting. I never put 2 and 2 together.
And Waltman would come up to me and goes, hey, I worked on it. I'm like, who are you? Like, I
yeah,
didn't know
for
who
sure.
He was
They
time.
built it right here. Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm glad to see you got the boat. Like, he was,
no shit.
Yeah, that's the boat.
That's
That's
awesome.
the boat. They were all mad that I painted it.
Right.
Then after I painted it, I get it wrapped, which is a funny story for my very, very, very first race with who became the man who needs no introduction to the OPA.
The Alan Pettit,
the
5,000.
Alan Pettit. What? What, bro? What? Nothing out. What? Whole another story. Nothing. Al, I love you. Al. Time out, Al. I love you, buddy. You know that. Take it easy, Al. We have microphones, and that's another stuff. I sing during racing. Your dad would probably tell you that. I was the first race boat with a radio in it. Here I am rocking like a hurricane after the East Tawas race.
Right.
Your dad, this is cool. I'm like, yeah. Al used to like yell, and I have to lower the microphone. Bro, are we over 70? I'm like, 82. Yeah, Al, we're under 70. Okay. But yeah, that was the boat, and Bob Christie hooked me up with a guy named Ron Potter, who built a motor for me, Potter Performance, and that's what I still currently have in there. It's been running good up to the last race, which was Lake Apacong. I don't know what happened after that, but, I still have to pull the motor out. But it's a great motor. I tell you.
Potter built some awesome stuff. We actually have a set of his motors that we rebuilt in there, and naturally, as engine builders, whenever you take somebody else's apart, you fine tooth comb it. He built some pretty awesome stuff, man.
Yeah.
And he's got a good rapport. He's been doing it a long time.
Yeah, he's with, I don't know who he's with now. I know he personally got out of his own business because of at that time, the economy. Look, I enjoy it. I have a little bit of everybody in my boat right now. I have, headers from a Hustler. I have exhaust from a Cigarette Gladiator. I have a little bit of everything, but you know what? That makes the Hurricane Force.
That's racing.
There you go.
That's racing, dude. It's it's funny because no matter what height the sport ever reaches, you'll never lose that because that's what this sport was founded in. That's if Joe blows a drive on Saturday and I have a spare, I give my spare to Joe. There's not even a question. I don't even think about it. If I hear you blew a drive, I'm going to bring it over to you. You don't even got to ask. I'm going to make sure I get you back out there. That is the entirety of offshore racing right there. It's the camaraderie, it's the fun. I've been trying really hard to get some of the old timers on the show to kind of talk about the grassroots of it. And so in my kind of pursuit of that, I've learned a bit about the old days. And I think myself, as maybe most people that'll listen to this, I thought, when I thought about the old days, I thought about warriors. These guys were tough, and they ran long endurance races, and I mean, they were badass dudes. I mean, it was the wild, wild west. And when you start to talk to those guys, they're sweethearts. And then you get to know, I follow along. I go in those Facebook pages of classic offshore, vintage offshore, and I just watch I don't ever interject because I have absolutely no place at that table. And I just sit there and I listen and I read, and it's funny, they were best friends. I have this misconception in my head of what racing was back then. It's just like it is now, and you're never going to shake that.
That's amazing.
You're never going to shake it because what rises to the top is organizations like OPA, where you're not out there for the benefit of yourself. You're out there for the benefit of the sport, and you attract people that feel that way. And it's one of the things that gravitated me towards you immediately when you started racing was that, like you said, I was the first, one of the first guys with a radio on the boat. I think the first guy was Nick Scafidi.
Oh, yeah.
He had, I'll never forget it, man, 2000 and I believe 12, we ran the Jupiter World Championships on the east coast of Florida. And we got down there and Nick and his driver had a little bit of a tiff or whatever. And here's 16-year-old me. Nick's like, you want to run a boat? Sure. Showed up Sunday morning. Dude, he had AC/DC on I remember the old iPods you used to plug in and leave them in there. They would just come on and loop. He had one song, and it was, I believe it was it was either Thunderstruck or Hell's Bells. And it played on a loop the entire time we raced. But you might be the first or the second. But that's what brought me right to your camp, was that immediately I saw that you were there for the right reasons. You're there for a good time. This is supposed to be fun. I enjoy the competition as much as anybody. You don't make it in the sport without that kind of killer drive, But you can't lose sight of what the goal is to go there and live your dream and have fun. I dreamt of one day being in a race boat the same way you did, and it's just so cool. And to be able to break into the sport the way we did. I got in Class 6 the same way you did. And I think, truthfully, that is the best way to get in the sport because I raced against, I can say with absolute honesty, the most awesome people I will ever meet in my life.
It's awesome.
It's the God's honest truth, man. I mean, nobody watching the show will know this because we're dinosaurs. But your first or second year racing, you ended up putting my old man in a driver's seat.
Second year. Second year, yep. Mm-hmm.
Right? And I just, Joe, I got to tell you, man, because that's something I will never forget, is the start-finish line picture of East Tawas.
I loved it.
Dude, at that point in time, me and my brother had a pretty good handle on that green boat. And then people had all to do to come get us, And you threw the old man in there, and I got to tell you, that was the first time in my career where I was shook. I was like, there's nothing I can do to get this guy off me, and it's my old man. I know who it is. I know what he does. I know what he's about, and we're running down into turns and I'm like, there's no way he's going to put it in there. And he puts it in there and he's inside me. And I'm like, motherfucker, right? The first time in all the years I've been racing, that was the first time where I was like, I can't get this guy, You scared the shit out of me, Joe. I didn't think I was ever going to beat you.
I'll tell you, I raced the first year with Al. I had a great time. And the first race was Ocean City, Maryland. First race, I'm going out in the ocean. I'm like, this is going to be great. First lap, the whole dashboard ends up on Al's lap. The whole dashboard's on Al. We got to go with him. Like, now, Al, it's my first race. Next thing I know, the side of the boat, the wrap is off. It ended up in somebody, I know whose sea strainer it ended up in, but I'm not going to say anything. It wasn't my fault. I didn't put the wrap on. Ended up, and they got knocked out of the race for it. They're fine. They didn't blow them over. But it was a great race. And I didn't know what I was doing. Al had no idea. I heard more yelling and screaming than anything the whole race. Loved that whole year. And then the next year came up. There was little complications with me and Al, with nothing personal. It was just that scheduling wise. And your dad said, look, I don't have somebody. And he's like, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I learned so much from your father. Even through going up to the last year racing with him, he would jump in for me, and I always felt like, God, I feel so bad he's jumping in here. Like, he's so busy as a president running his home.
No.
But he was more excited than I was.
Nope.
Like, I almost passed out in Falls River. The last race that we had in Falls River, I'm like almost blacking out. He's like, go, go, go. I'm like,
when did you start? 2012, right?
Yep, that's the AMSOIL series.
Yep.
Watch that beginning of that show when you and I are neck to neck.
Yes, St. Clair.
St. Clair. And
yep.
I love it because that's the last time I ever had to lead.
Well, almost, because fast forward to 2019, we raced against each other again in Falls River when I was running with Mike Bocchino in the You Gun Learn P&D.
Right. Yeah,
we had another war there. If it wasn't for Specialized spinning out in front of us.
That was a great war. That was a good fight. That was a good battle.
And it's funny because I try very hard not to pump my own chest, and especially, my family's, but, the guy is a maestro. And I've seen it my whole life. There's nothing that he can get in that he can't drive and can't drive competitively. I mean, better than anybody else. And it blows my mind. It baffles me because there's no thought, there's no practice, there's no testing, there's no leading up. He just gets in and goes, right? And you see it. He's been in your boat. So I can tell you this from where I'm sitting. I've been racing since 2009, so I've been racing 11 years. I started racing with my old man in 2018. I thought it was my first day.
Wow.
Dude, I got in the fountain. It was my second race in the fountain. My first race in the fountain was, I'm very proud to say, I lost to the David Rabb in his 35 fountain. And that was my first race. My second race was Point Pleasant with my old man the year after he passed. And it was a tough day for me, and I'm sure for all of us. And it was a scary, scary moment. Yeah. But I got in there with him, and the way he operates put me right back in the game. That guy has no fear whatsoever. And the talent that just pours out of him, it's unbelievable. And now we're running that Super V Light together. Dude, we went down to Morehead City. I'm almost positive we got lapped. But I learned like leaps and bounds over what I've learned in the past 10 years in an hour in a boat with him. And it's such a gift. Like, I'm so happy that he did that for you.
I'll tell you, it changed me. I had no idea. I hopped in throttling a boat, never not steering. You're recreational, you're steering, you're throttling. Having somebody drive the boat is scary.
Right.
And on the other end, I've never driven my boat, other than me doing it with throttle and driving. I've never driven my boat. And I'm afraid to, wow, that's got to be weird, because I know how much control you have with the throttles. But I could see, when Tim Vandenberg jumped in, I saw the personality difference between your father, Tim, and Al.
Right.
The boat dance is different with every different partner, and you got to accommodate to it. And I think that's where your father taught me a lot of go out wide, come in. And I'll never forget down in Maryland during one race, we're nicking the turn buoys. Pop, nicking them. I'm like, we can do that. I own them. And then we popped one. I'm like, are we all right? Like, I own it. And then Big Frank comes over to me after the race, goes, oh, you didn't win. Why? You popped the turn buoy. I'm like, but he says we can. He said, disqualified. I'm like, oh,
Frank overrules him every
that's it,
time,
done.
man. Dude, and it's funny because it's as much as he, like, people could say, that's a pretty shitty thing of Smitty to do, you know, acting like he owns a joint. He does own a joint, and he does it because he loves it.
He loves it.
He loves it, man.
He was teaching me how to turn.
Yeah,
that's
man.
what he was doing. He was teaching me how to turn.
He loves that. Like, and I got to tell you, man, isn't it cool? Like, you had the experience to run with a bunch of different people. I ran with only my brother for the first 10 years of my life, or of my racing career. And then in the next 2 years, or I'm sorry, the first 9 years, the next 2 years, I raced with like 6 different teams. And I got to tell you, that's when I started having fun because it's insightful. You know, you get in a boat with different people. Like, I ran with Anthony my whole life, right? And I'm sure he'll laugh if he hears this, right? But there's like a couple of things where my whole life I'd say, Anthony fucks this up every time, right? And then I get in a boat with like somebody else and the boat does the same thing. And I'm like, it was me. It was me for 9 fucking years, you know? And it's funny because, like, it's such a good time, like, to get in boat with other people where everybody's kind of tense. It's a little nervous. Like, I don't know you. You don't know me. It's kind of just like the first time we're doing this. And I don't know if anybody's realized this yet, but our boats are our babies. Like that, like, so to let somebody else, especially somebody as stupid as me, drive your boat, you know what I mean? Like, it's a tough thing to do. And I jumped in with Rob Merck. Ray Merck couldn't make, well, he was there, but he couldn't run in Ocean City 2 years ago. It was rough.
Loved Ray.
And Ray, I mean, if people don't know Ray, I mean, Ray is
a
legend, man. Just an Iron Man in a sport. I think he raced to 80. There's only one other guy I know of, George Eisenhart, that did it at his level for a long time. And I got to jump in the boat with his son Rob, and it's a boat that I raced against for a long time. So, and it was just kind of like a cool thing, and in a team that I highly respected and loved. And we went out there, and if you've ever seen Rob Merck walk around the pits, you would never assume that guy's an offshore powerboat racer, right? Very soft-spoken, respectful, very, you know, like, he's come up to me. We raced against each other for 10 years, you know, so there was absolutely times where I had to pinch him to get in where I needed to be, or, you know, that's racing, right? And he'd come up to me and be like, you know, that move in turn 1, and I'd be like, nah, man, come on, it was clean. He'd walk away, you know, like, he's just non-combative, non-confrontational, you know. I get in the boat with him, the guy's a killer. Killer, man. We're out in Ocean City. It's 6-footers. I'll just tell a racing story, man. I think it's been a while since I told a racing story.
I need it.
I'll settle one in. So we get the green flag. We're running Class 6. It's us and Smith Brothers check out to the lead, right? And I'm like, deja vu, man. I did this my whole life. I love this, right? And I love Rich and Pete. I'll run with Rich and Pete any day.
They're awesome.
They are the best people. So we're heading down into turn 1, and we're catching the Class 5 fleet, right? So we mow down the Class 5 fleet. We get up to John Cohen in the Cisco. Now, that's the boat that I actually race against in my own boat in Class 5, right? So I'm laughing. I'm like, look at this. I'm getting Johnny in a Class 6 boat, right? We get up to Cohen. We're running with Smith Brothers, and Smith Brothers, typical veteran boat racers, right? They get up to Cisco, and we have plenty of speed to get by them. They were having a problem with the engine, and they pulled off and sat right next to him. Wow. And it makes it impossible for me to pass you, right? Wow. I mean, just smart, veteran, cagey warriors, right? And I'm like, fuck, you know, I got to get these guys. Now, like I said, you don't get very far in offshore powerboating or offshore powerboat racing without a little bit of that killer instinct, right? Well, it was like the second lap, turn 1. I'm sitting behind Smith Brothers. I felt super comfortable in the boat. Rob was running it like an absolute killer. And I know over the course of this race, I can probably get him, right? But as a Jersey boy, it doesn't go down like that. I had to pay my homage to the Godfather Augie Pensa, and I had to go down the inside, right? And so I did. I chucked it in there, and John Cohen saw me coming, and even though he wasn't racing against me, he had to shut the door just to set precedence. I got hosed down and shut off in the third turn of the race, right? And when we got into the dock, I mean, we recovered. We mowed down the boats between us and Smith Brothers. We got the boat running again and still finished second. And we came into the dock, and Ray's standing there, and I'm waiting for my words of encouragement. And Ray walks up to me in his natural, you know, kind of fatherly demeanor, you know, and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, "Boomer, I would have won. And he walked away. That's right. He is a legend, man. I love
great,
that
right?
guy.
That's a great family.
But it's true. Like, how cool was Class 6, man?
It's awesome.
And it still is. I mean, it's just I'm a little out of touch with it because I haven't been into class in a while.
No, me neither.
But
because I can't stay under 70.
Yeah,
so.
man, you got that lead hand.
Well, you know what? The boat, like your dad even knows, the boat runs good at 72.
Yeah.
Under that, try 69. It's squirrely.
Yeah.
So it's the Class 5 boats. Very difficult. I mean, I get it. I know. I mean, but 5, 6, 7, 6, 6, 7. If I can kind of get it to figure it's out, but. We'll see down the road. This year coming up, is it going to be 5 or 6? I don't know. We'll see. It's tough to compete Class 5. You can't. I mean,
go back to Class 6. Listen,
look, Liquid Addiction hosed me enough. Well, you boys and Tim Vandenberg and now they're all the Green Machine or whatever it's called. Your old boat, which was cool to see out there. That was pretty
awesome.
neat.
I got to tell you though, my heart skipped a beat pulling into the pits and seeing my boat sitting there, and it ain't my boat.
How'd that feel?
Weird, man.
Is it?
Weird. I got a lot of time in that thing. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But it went to a good home, man.
Yeah.
Jeff and Tim and Cliff and just forgive me because they have a gang of people that work with them down there, and they're doing a beautiful job, man. They're going to do justice to that boat. I know it. That's what made me comfortable with letting it go to them.
It's nice because Tim and Cliff were part of Hurricane originally.
Right.
And then they went with Al when I said, look, I need to take a couple of years off because of finances. And they went up and like, Tim, go do. And Al bought the boat. Now Al has the boat up for sale. So if anybody's looking for it,
that's true.
To get rid of it.
That's true. Great Class 6 boat.
It is good.
Same as, it's a Carrera. I'm not sure what year his is, but a 24 Carrera. Probably an 81 would be my guess. And it's just an awesome boat. I raced that exact boat in Class 6 for 10 years very successfully. It's a great boat. Whatever number he's asking, it's worth it. And so is powerboat racing. You'll enjoy it. But something that I wanted to touch on before we get too far ahead and I forget my shit, I wanted to ask you a little bit about when you're running, when in the hurricane force, you get to the race, you get all set up,
all ready.
We get through Friday night, we get through Saturday night. How do you stay so energetic? Like, I've walked up to you and is it just that you're that excited to get in the boat, or is it just your natural demeanor? Like, Joe, I gotta tell you, man, by Sunday morning, I'm spent. I'm spent, buddy. I'm at the driver's meeting. I'm yawning. I just barely got there on time. My pulse is like 37. and then I walk up to you, man. You're like the Energizer Bunny, man. What is it? Is it that you love this shit that much?
It's fun. I think the biggest thing is it's fun, and that's why I brought my family, and that's why my daughter Karina, Dewey, and my son Brent, who you've seen him with Jim Black, sometimes in life, and they love being in part of the team. They can't do much. They jump in the boat. They'll help as they're growing up now. My son's 13. My daughter's 11, going to be 12. They're part of this. And it was your guys, your family, that really, when I first started, you were the family. Like, you guys were there. You're all family, all there. I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah, there's a few of us. There's us, Saris. I don't want to start naming names because there's like the Lowers, the Mullers.
You didn't mention me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million of them. Yeah, there's a lot of us that do this as a family, and I appreciate that because it is a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun and is still a lot of fun doing this as a family, and that is awesome.
And my wife is the boss lady. That's her name on the shirt, boss lady. She's the boss lady, and you know what? And she enjoys it, and even to the point where, like, a couple years ago, I went out to Hurricane fell. I went out to Michigan, and Rob Hartman was going to drive for me. So my wife's like, "Look, you go out." Jeff gave me a truck to use, and I towed the boat all the way out to Michigan. I put it on the hose before I left. Ran great. Battery seemed like it was dying a little bit. It'll be all right. Put it in the water. Boat started right up. Then it stalled, and then it started smoking. And Rob's like, "What are we gonna do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know." Then it wouldn't start. And then the boys from Liquid Addiction says, "Joe, I wouldn't race it if I were you. It looks like something's wrong." Now, something in my head at that moment, because it was live streaming on TV. We had, I think, a 2-hour delay or an hour delay for all the ships coming up the St. Clair River. And it ended up being a pulley, like a $25 pulley that ended up being it. But in my mind, when everybody's talking me out of, "Don't do it, you're going to blow up the motor if you go out there," I'll never forget a race when I had your dad in the boat with me. And I opened up the hatch, and I had no drive fluid. in a reservoir. And I went, oh no, I forgot to fill because I had a leak. And I don't know if it was all going into the bellows or anything. I'm like, is that a problem? No, we'll just put water in it. I'm like, what? He goes, we'll just go have fun. What's the worst thing? We get towed in? I'm like, okay. So we put the hatch down, we ran. Had a great race. That moment popped in my head while Rob's sitting there. I'm like, man, he came all the way out here to run this boat with me. I've never driven a boat with Rob. Here he is. We're in St. Clair. I'm enjoying it. So I'm alone. My wife said, just go. Enjoy yourself. We'll watch it on TV. They're all excited to watch it. I'm in the water now thinking if your dad's saying that to me from 5 years ago. Rob's like, let's just race. No, just take it out of the water. Long story short, as I put the boat up on the trailer and we bring it back to the pits, I'm like, I drove out here the whole weekend and didn't even get the race. And I was so upset about it. But you know what? It was cool, though, because it was the whole excitement. Yeah,
you got to be a fan again.
I wanted to be a fan. But I also got to be part of the racing family again.
Yeah.
And I got upset on my way home because I'm like, this is where I want my kids. Because, you know what, that Palmer Park, when they have all the festivities on the lake like that, the river, that is awesome. Like, it is so family. Like, you never see me out at night. I mean, look, 2020 is an introvert kind of year. Right. I'm not an extrovert. I'm not the guy that goes out, blah, blah, blah. I'm an introvert. I'm like, I'm going to stay inside. I'm good. That's what makes me happy because I don't go out.
Right.
Everything's all about the family. Let's go walk around. Let's go watch TV. Let's go have dinner. Hey, Joe, how you doing? That's why I'm happy because ever since I was young, I was like, just enjoy life. Because life has enough headaches in your way that even though I'm insecure at times and I worry about things that are going to be a year away from now, the reality is you just got to take the moment and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important, that enjoy what we have. And when I have that boat and I have my family with me and we're all together, to me, including the boat family, that's the best. It's fun. And then when you hop in that boat, it becomes competition. It's like the old football days, all right, now I'm going to win. And I'll never forget my first year with Al. Here we are racing. I go, Al, we're getting lapped, bro. He's like, what? I go, we're getting lapped. He goes, no, we're not. I go, I think we are, Al. He's like, what? I'm like, nothing, Al. Never mind. But you learn from that.
My brother teases me all the time about my famous line after my very first boat race. My very first race was Ocean City, Maryland. We went there with a 5 on the boat, wound up in 6 because it was obviously not a Class 5 boat, right? And we went out, we raced, and Chris Rindle was there in full force. There was 3 or 4 bat boats in Class 6 at that time.
Wow.
I watched all 4 of them lap me about 5 times. We were sitting on the rocking chairs out front of the beautiful Atlantic Hotel, Ocean City, Maryland, and owned by Bill Purnell, who raced Wanted, the 36 Sig Canopy, purple beautiful. And yellow, beautiful boat, awesome dude, great hotel. Wild Bill's out front. See him, Ocean City, Maryland, Bike Week. But we were out front sitting on a rocking chairs, and my brother says to me, "What do you think?" I said, "Man, it looks easier on TV." I feel you, man. I feel you. It's tough when you first get started.
I remember Lang City Race, man. I'm out there and we're running and Tim and I are just getting our butts kicked. We're just getting our butts kicked. And my wife was watching it from the Trump Tower around it, and afterwards I go, oh, there's the race. I go, wow, you can't really see it. I go, it looks calm out there. She goes, oh, it looks pretty calm. I go, no, I remember one moment I look back, I don't see a boat. Next thing I look again, there's Geico right there. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's crazy. What you like, Point Pleasant's classic for that. Point Pleasant, when you're on the beach and you're looking, it looks like, wow, it's not that bad until you don't see the boat anymore.
Yeah.
And most people don't realize that. No, that's look at it from going west, look east, looking west. No, it's tough. It's it's.
I'll stick a picture up in the podcast right here for everybody watching. But I have a photo of the green boat in Turn 1 in Point Pleasant, high enough that you can see all of Point Pleasant underneath it.
Wow.
And I show that photo to the amazing Ron Poley took that picture for me, and thank you, Ron.
Hi, Ron.
And I show that picture to all my buddies when they ask me what it's like, and I'm like, dude, it is the most out of control thing you'll ever do in your life. But once you figure out how to control it, you'll never stop.
Yeah,
and you see it, man. This Class 7 thing that's come about in the last
awesome.
10 years, man. Holy shit, what an awesome class that is.
That looks awesome,
dude.
Bro.
There's the new blood that comes in is my favorite part, right? There was these kids that came in. James and I can't name shit. I'm bad with names lately, but they came in running a 22 progression called Naughty Boys, and my buddy Joey Riley, who runs the other 22 progression, formerly known as Shadow Pirate, now Team Progression. He was running, or he couldn't make it. Had called me, said I'm sending a few of my buddies down. They got a progression. They want to race. Just point them in the right direction. So I walked up Sunday morning. This is the first time we ran Moorhead, September 9th. And it was interesting. I walked up to the truck, and I'm expecting like a super excited brand new team, and I walked up to the truck, and man, they look shit scared. I'm like, well, not a bad thing.
Right.
The bad thing is when people go out there overconfident. And they went out there and they kicked ass, man. They won their first race.
Wow. That's
and
awesome.
I was standing out back of the bar after the awards, and I saw them come out of the bar. And there's nothing better than that brand new, wide-eyed, first checkered flag. There's just nothing better than that. There's nothing like that is just so cool to me. And to see Class 7 grow and to see so much of that, it's just so awesome. It reminds me of our Class 6 days.
That is unbelievably accurate. You know what? I saw many years ago, Tim Sharkey had a bullet boat. He's working on bullets today. He's found this new dream of bullet boats. Good job, Tim. Keep working at it. And I watched him doing a poker run in this looked like a 12-footer. And
it probably was, yeah.
And he's like in the air. I'm like, oh my God, who is this guy? Later find out it's Tim Sharkey. Does great photos. Tim's a great guy. Good gentleman. Good person. Good friend. I can tell you throughout this 2020, Tim has been there for me because it's been a tough year for everybody. But
Tim's a great guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. So I call him the eye of the hurricane because of the lens. So he takes great pictures and he works with me a lot. So thank you, Tim, for that. And everybody else who takes pictures as well. But the eye of the hurricane is Tim Sharkey. Actually, my hero card with the sandy seaside bridge in there. I have people in Michigan that love that. When we go out to when I went to St. Clair. People were like, what is that? And I had to explain that was damage from Sandy with the hurricane, looking at their skulls and everything. But I watched that nut back during the NJPPC days and the poker runs, running that, and I correlate that with the Class 7 guys.
Well, that's his design, right?
It is?
Yeah, Sharky. I do. I'm
really?
Almost 100% sure that that's his design.
I think he's hiding that from me.
He created. I'm pretty sure that Bullet was his product.
Tim, are you not telling me something?
And Tim is a guy that not a lot of people realize his credentials in this sport. Tim came up in some really respected race teams and really held his own for a long time in the marine industry. And, now he just does what he loves and with the photography and being around the races and everything. But, yeah, Tim's a warrior, man.
He's good.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, and he's a hell of a glass guy.
He's unbelievable, because he even said, we're going to work on your boat. I'm like, okay, great. And then I'm watching him doing what he's doing now, and it's just like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is unbelievable.
I think it's a 22 bullet he's building.
Yep.
That's going to be beautiful, man.
That's crazy.
And he's put a lot of time into it.
I see Mark Henderson with his boat and all the Class 7 guys. I'm like, man, they'll still kick my boat with the Class 6 boat. They're good. Dude, these guys are great. I mean, I jumped in
with Jeremy Bisson. I always say his name wrong, and he laughs at me. Last year in Class 7, the Tomahawk. And we ran 3 races, and they culminated in Englewood. World Championships on Sunday is always rough. I don't know why. It's a lily pond on Saturday. It's rough on Sunday every year. We went out the inlet, and I said to Jeremy, all right, how much weight we got in the front? You put weight in the front, right? No, we got nothing up there. I'm like, shit, it's rough, So I knew we kind of didn't have the boat for the day, and let's just survive this one, not go home with a $3,000 bill or something, So we're running through the, mid-pack, and then, as the race went on, the leaders were catching us. And I remember Garrett Moore and, oh, man, it's going to bother me. But the Punisher team came by us with the same exact boat. 22 velocity, I'm in a 22 velocity. They came by us like 10 feet in the air, level as could be, running on the number, 58 miles an hour in 8-footers. I'm like, I'm out of my league.
Wow.
This isn't my lane. These guys are out of control. People don't give them enough credit,
right.
And I try really hard to push them as hard as I can, because that is, first of all, not to put anybody down, right? But like you watch some of the bigger boats run and the green flag goes up, the fast one checks out, and then the pack kind of shuffles out, and it's just watching slot car racing for a little while, right? You watch Class 7, it's war everywhere. I don't care if it's 4th place, 8th place, 1st place, there's a battle going on. Like, you can go back and watch the live stream of Morehead City the second day. Naughty Boys and Jackhammer, the Superstock team, built a Class 7 boat because that's how awesome Class 7 is. And they were out there for their first run in the boat, running first place.
Wow.
Naughty Boys got by him, kind of pinched him a little bit into that first pillow, kind of giving it to him a little bit. It's World Championships is what we do, right?
Yep.
Kind of gave it to him a little bit. Closed the door on the second pin. They looped it, pitched themselves out of Jackhammer. Everybody's safe. Thank you. I'm so happy that things safety and guys just being more level-headed now has really prevented a lot of bad situations. So thank God, we had a bunch of situations in Morehead City. Everybody walked away unscathed. Wow. But you watch that Class 7 race, and I hate when I talk to people about it, and you get that monotone kind of, so they're 60 mile an hour, 22-foot outboard boats, and I'm like,
you don't understand, right?
He's like, and they only run 60, like mine runs 90, and I'm like, yeah, they can all run 90, but you can't race it at 90, you know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
Like to try to and you just can't get it through people's head, and then all of a sudden they see it. They watch one, and they're like, those guys are nuts, and I'm like, I'm trying to tell you, man, Class 7's a shit,
That is a great class. That really is. That's why Class 6 to me is like where I'm at. Man, I can't tell you. Class 7 is
Class 7 just replaced us.
To me, it's just crazy. Class 7 is,
it's nuts.
great. It's cool.
But
they're tough.
They replaced us, and they're carrying the torch well. Like Class 6 was the beginner class. Class 6 was the knuckleheads, right? Right, knuckleheads. Shout out to Evil Ed Smith. and it was the crazy bastards in Class 6, right? But then came Class 7, and I mean, put us to shame, man. I was like, holy shit. I think I took third once out of all 4 races I ran with Jeremy. I got my ass waxed, man. And I took third in a 3-boat race.
But that's you're leading me into a new good segue there, because Jeremy, breaking news.
I told you I would figure it out before the podcast was over.
Yes, Jeremy and I are in talks of becoming together, working on the Hurricane for the upcoming season. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, the one thing that I do miss, I mean, that's where you guys, as the OPA, as a family, and it took me a long time. You spoke about this earlier, about how in racing, everybody comes together. You break a motor, you blow a drive, you're there. It took a long time for me to understand that. Like, I thought, you know what? When you're in the marine industry, and you know what I'm saying is that no, people are looking to. Oh no, you have to buy this, you got to buy that. But in racing, something happens. You're there to help each other, and that's the one thing in my team, which is just my family, and my nephew Bernie, which little Bernie, he's no longer little, he's taller than me, and he's going to be part of it. He was supposed to race with me in Point Pleasant years back, and I'm glad he's the one on that horrible day in Point Pleasant that he didn't want to run with me, and it was smart, and I'm glad. But he's part of this as well, and now that he has his career going too.
Which is a super admirable thing, by the way. There's this moniker in racing that, like, we're all a bunch of badasses, right? And we are, and it gets a lot of us in trouble. So that's interesting because, I mean, I watched Bernie come up. I watched him since you got into sport, right? And that's an interesting. I never heard that story, but that's awesome. That's good of him to do.
Yeah, Bernie Bogus. Yeah, he started when he was 12 years old, helping clean cars and boats at my shop with me, and then he helped me build this boat.
He was at every race with you, man.
Yeah, every race. Yeah, he came to me with New York, and we went out to Michigan, and his mom's like, make sure you don't bring him out there. I'm like, all right. So then we'd hop on the boat, and we go into the St. Clair. We're going to go test. Probably one of the only times I ever tested was with Bernie at the age of like 16.
Right.
And he's like, this is cool. I'm like, hurry up, we got to get back. We have to head over to Sarnia Bay soon, so we got to get back soon.
Smitty's going to yell at me and buy me a beer.
So, he's involved. So Jeremy's going to be involved. I got Pat Romeo, who's at Marine Unlimited, who's helping out. He's involved. Team is very important. And you know what? And I have my family. I tried Al and Al Pettit when he first started. I didn't know him. Your dad said, hey, here's a guy that wants to race. I underestimated how much Al was doing for me at the time, and I give him a lot of support, and I thank him because when I first started, I was very controlling. Like I didn't, no, can't go in there. Don't do this. Don't do. No, why you want it? Because I was insecure. I didn't know how this was because I see the marine industry, and Al put so much effort and time into my boat, into our boat, shall I say, and I didn't respect it at the time. It took years later when I'm driving the boat, I'm putting the boat on the trailer, doing it all alone, and like we went up to Tawas. I didn't have a driver up there for that, and that's when your dad jumped in for me, and you guys helped me out, put the boat in the water, go test. And the best, again, I remember you saying you're worried about your dad, and your dad's like, we got to get them. And I'm not going to mention the boat that broke out in front of us that no longer races, that was in that race, but it was a race between you and him.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to your dad. First time I raced with your dad, and your dad's telling me what to do. Bring back. I'm watching his hand signals, and he's telling me, da. But what the very end to me meant the most is that how we had that photo finish.
The way it came to be, too.
Right.
That when I told that story earlier in the show, when I said no way he's going to put that in there, and he goes down the inside. The guy scares me, and I think that's why I enjoy racing with him so much, because his talent level behind the steering wheel of a boat is not found commonly, and so racing against him scares the shit out of me because he'll do things that will, make me look silly, And in that race in particular, you're 100% right. It was a race between not only me and him, but us and him, where I had Anthony in the boat with me as well. And that, to me, was one of the most significant races I'd ever been a part of. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because I believe that you beat me that day. You happened to break out right at the end, but you had me going to the finish line anyway. You broke out at the finish line, and I don't count that. That's I'm old school, brother. And to me, it was good. It was good to feel that. It was good to see how much I still have to learn. And I enjoy boat racing for that reason. Everybody has their thing about it. To me, I grew up walking in the footsteps of giants, and it's not about, for me, I don't have that I'm going to stomp my feet because I'm not as good as them, and no, I just enjoy learning from them. I enjoy I enjoy that from everybody. The one person that I talk about a lot on the show, and I never really name his name because I don't know. I feel funny about that. But Billy Moff, I study that guy because I just feel that there's nobody better than him in a catamaran, and he does things that. Listen, he may lose, but the weird thing about Billy is he'll show up at a race and take last and look like he didn't belong on the course, and then show up in somewhere like Key West and make the whole field look stupid. Wow. And it baffles me, like the way he does things. I talked about it a little bit on I believe the last podcast with Steve-O about he ran my brother all over the race course, and people would say like, well, You like that guy? Yeah, because I would have ran my brother all over the race course, like we're racers. That's what we do, But watching a guy like that go is kind of like, watching my old man, watching guys like Billy. There's again, I'm not going to name names, but it's amazing, and it's cool that you had that experience.
It was that race that made me feel this is what racing is about. And then you gave me that checkered flag, and to me it was like unbelievable. Like, wow, this is cool. The last checkered flag I ever held.
You
up
earned
to
it.
Lake Capacong, and then, Typhoon gave me the flag at the end
brother.
when we ran Class 5 with your dad. And, and a lot of, the other thing is sponsors. I think that the big thing to me is this organization, well, not this organization, but racing needs sponsors.
Yeah.
And we know COVID's hitting everybody hard. And myself as well, I understand, like I have Spencer Palmer, who owns Expert Landscaping, who's always been there for me to help me in like local races, and I got Mark and Mindy Glaz, MMG Transportation in Livingston. They've always helped me out. Jayco Towing, they were one of my first customers. Mark and Bobby Venero, whatever, first customer. All these guys, Bobby V, Venero, who had Blackjack, the Formula, old time racer, Barnegat Bay racer, always behind me. Always, what do you need?
Right.
I got Mike's ABG, Mike Jers with cooking, loves racing. This guy, he used to race. They understand. They love it. And when we go out to different states and when I see the kids in the family, I think about me at that age. Then I think of my children and where I am today with boat racing. It's so touching that I went back to St. Clair last year, and families come up to me saying, hey, remember? I'm like, oh, yeah. he got this big. This guy, hey, you could stay at our house if you come up here. I'm like, wow, like this is cool. Like most people do not want my signature because it's going to cost you $54 or court cost, But here's my signature. Enjoy, It's pretty neat. But going back to being happy-go-lucky, you have to. I think in life you have to. I know life is going to throw you problems, throw you lemons. But yeah, man, when you wake up Sunday morning and it's race day and you want to go out there and have fun.
It's lemonade, brother.
It's fun, brother.
It's fun. It's funny because you just hit to me, my favorite aspect of boat racing. And it is the people you meet,
Yeah,
and I'll just tell one quick one. I just about a month ago, I get a Facebook message. I don't know if I should. Yeah, I could say his name. From this guy, Ed, up in Michigan that I met in Port Huron. And his son Evan, I think he was 11 at the time, I believe, young kid, and he was just infatuated with what was going on around him. Just had never seen anything like this. And then on top of that, his favorite boat was mine, the green boat. And so I did what I felt I needed to do because I'm big at paying it back, right? Like when I was a kid. My very first in with a race team was Firewater. Bob Oliver raced with Herb Stotler and Levi Santana. And, he just had the coolest shit. He had a 47 Apache, a 41 Apache, and they were both just bad. Me, man.
Mm-hmm.
Apache's my favorite boat.
Bob's Centi.
Yeah, man. That's just that's a whole show in and of itself. But I'm walking around the pits, and Bobby was big on the cookouts and all that stuff, right? And so naturally, us, him, Augie, everybody, that just fit right together, right? Well, before we knew him, I'm roaming around the pits, and I see this cookout going on, and little me was a little rambunctious. And I went in there and made myself a plate and sitting with the team. I'm acting like I'm supposed to be there, not saying a word, listening to stories, and and they're colorful dudes, man. Bobby Oliver he was the character, brother, and I miss him terribly. And he may show his face soon. I actually saw that his boat's local again. Thank you, Herbie. And it was pretty cool. He turned over and kind of just noticed I was sitting there, and it was just talking to me like a normal kid. Went in the shirt, went in the truck, got me a shirt, and I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever, right? And then here's this kid Evan in Port Huron, and I'm looking at this kid the way Bobby Oliver looked at me, and I'm like, this is insane. So I took him under my wing. We won Port Huron. I gave him the trophy.
Oh, that's cool.
I said, take that. He goes, no, I can't take your trophy. And I don't want to say these things end up collecting dust, buddy. Take it, man. It's cool. It means something to you. Well, he wouldn't take it. I said, all right, I'll make you a deal. I said, take the trophy, take it home, and then bring it back to me in St. Clair. It was 2 weeks later, right? So sure as shit, I pull into St. Clair. Here's the kid with the trophy, right? And I'm like, awesome, oh, wow. Right? Now fast forward to 2020, right? He's 16 years old. He bought a 22-foot Scarab. Wow. It runs 68 miles an hour on the limiter, and he's like through the fucking roof with it, right? And I just think it's the coolest thing. Like I watched this kid when he was 11 years old running around, and now he's got his own boat. I'm trying to talk his old man into bringing it to St. Clair, and it's just that you touched on. To me, what is the coolest thing is we're not NASCAR. We'll never be NASCAR. Thankfully, it's fortunate that we're not, because you would lose all of the amazing things that make us enjoy what we do so much. It's not. I've been to Dover, Pocono, Daytona, Martinsville. I've been to these. I've never met a driver. I've never met a crew chief. I've never even met a crew guy. Right? I've never even seen one, right? Yep. Not powerboat racing. You pull in, you probably parked in my spot, right? Right. You're probably blocking my boat. Right? I probably got to yell at you to move your car, and it's just so personable. That to me is everything. That's why we do this, because if we don't do that, there won't be any future boat racers. That's what pulled me in. That's what pulled you in. That's what anybody I talk to, every time I do a show, I ask that question: how'd you get into boat racing? Because everybody, and it's always a different story, but it's the same way, right? Same direction, yep. And I think to me that's cool to see that there was that many people that saw the importance and taking the time to talk to you.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's important, man. I hope it. Stays together through.
One of the big things, again, with family was 2 years ago with Lake Apaco. We ran Class 5. because it was we did the Fall Rivers before that. You know, it was Breakout Central. You know,
Right.
and oh, you broke us out, and we were, I got hosed down by everybody after the restart, and we had our own race going on. But it was the first time back, and we're having fun, and not realizing these guys are that competitive because of points and everything. Sorry, it's my first race in a couple of years, and I blew your race because we're kicking butt. But it was what happened afterwards. Is that in the Lake Hopatcong race, it was just 2 Class 5 boats. You know, us.
You and Rob, right?
Yeah, and Typhoon.
Yeah.
And in the end, we got second. We broke out. He came over and gave my kids the trophy, and they were so excited by that. Like, they were like, "This is amazing." Like,
Rob did that, or Randy?
Randy did. Randy did. Yeah, Randy did it.
Randy's a class act, man.
Randy gave it to him and says, "Look, you guys earned it." And the kids, like, they were so excited about it. Now it's in the garage because I got to put my own little, my only trophy that I got in my participation trophy.
Well, that's gonna change, man.
Well, we're gonna try.
I'm super happy to hear that you're lining up with Jeremy.
We're lining up.
So I got to tell you, because, and I'll just tell you my personal opinion. I raced with him 4 times, and I was thoroughly impressed. Unfortunately, going into this year, just schedules and COVID and bullshit, and just he couldn't make it. And I kind of thankfully, because I had seriously underestimated the amount of work that goes into that Super V Light. There's no way I could pull off double duties and triple duties, and I just can't do that. So I'm super happy to hear that you two are lining up. He's an awesome racer.
Years ago, we were supposed to, and unfortunately, because there was a transition going on at the marina at the time from one to another, and financially, I couldn't do it. He was at that point trying to become it, and I was trying to deal with the finances that were going on over there. And we kind of had to, like, look, I'm sorry. And then that's when he started his own thing. And we've always stood close. In our offshore performance ways, we've always stood close. Again, that's with Tim Vandenberg and everything. These guys, everybody in this organization in boat racing has something to teach everyone. And I think that's important for me, because everybody has a little bit of knowledge of something. From the person that's just, the rescue teams are the best. They bust my chops when I do the swim test. They have fun. Like, going back all the way to pre-COVID or during COVID when I started Fight Night with my son.
Dude, which, by the way,
which was no sports on. We said, let's do this.
Dude, thank you for that.
It was,
because look, I know it was silly and it wasn't like you were doing much, but you don't realize what you did. You brought, you found a way to bring us all back together. Everybody was talking about
That's
it.
what I heard. That's what your dad's like, do you know who was just watching? I'm like, no. The head of, I'm like, what? He's like, oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, Mercury. I'm like, really?
We were walking around in the shop when that was all going on, and Pop would be like, we got to go. Wnek fight's on tonight. And I'm like, seriously, dude?
And my son loves it. My daughter, my son, wash their hands. They love it. And everybody's like, when's the second wave? I go, look, the second wave of COVID's here, but we have real sports going on right now. So we needed it at that time. And I love it, and I enjoyed it. And they were, just so everybody knows, it was controlled by the computers. We never controlled anybody. We're not Dominion. No, we're not Dominion. No, computer decided who fought and how many rounds. There's a couple fights I wish they went further, but we weren't controlling. The computer controlled how many fights and how many rounds.
It didn't matter.
It was awesome.
It didn't matter. It was just cool.
I mean, I beat Al once because I couldn't let Al beat me again. So I made sure that I won again. So maybe the Dominion jumped in there once in a while. But no, but it was a good time, And again, Ray LaBeatty. I don't know who Ray was. Through Fight Night, now Ray and I have communications, and I find out, Englewood Beach. I'm like, what? Oh, yeah, sent me a puzzle. The kids and I are doing a puzzle. I'm like, this from Fight Night. But again, that goes back to the family of OPA. Because,
well, what you did was so cool. It was the way you did it on Facebook Live, where it was like when you had Stanch and my old man fighting every night. It was so funny because you'd go in there and it wasn't just watching your UFC video game. It was the chat room underneath it. That was hilarious, man. It was so good because we miss each other so much. I think 90% of what I do on this show is trying to encourage people who are on the fence about getting involved with the sport. Right. Do it, man, because you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I miss you guys. Like this whole COVID thing, luckily we made light of the whole situation last year. We wound up with Lotto and 2 Morehead cities. And the 2 Morehead cities, I personally wasn't in Lotto. I can't speak to it. I was in California while that was happening. But the 2 Morehead cities were, bang up jobs, man.
awesome.
It was amazing, and the way the city bent over backwards for us to slash some tape and get us in where we
Right.
need to get in. I mean, Jeff turned around and put that second race on in 40 days.
Wow.
40
That's
days.
awesome. That's all. And everybody got to go out there. You know, I was upset I couldn't make it out there just because of the job.
Yeah,
and
no
COVID.
doubt, no doubt.
But I look forward to this upcoming season. You know, again,
It's going to be a hell of a season, brother.
I look forward to
As long as this COVID thing doesn't drag on for too long, and maybe this vaccine turns out to be the savior, I don't give a shit what happens as long as this shit goes away and we can get back to normal. Because we have a schedule for 2021 that's gonna drop some people's jaws, man.
That's cool.
We're just scratching the surface
that's cool.
of what the idea is that we're striving for, and we got some phenomenal people working with us. You got not to to put down people that are already doing this, but some new people and old that are back. Mike Yawoski's kicking around
Mike, yeah.
Solomon's again for 2021. Solomon's Island's a beautiful place to race. It's just an amazing town, awesome race course. You have Matt Soper, who's brand new with the old school 39 cigarette, I'm sorry, and he just won his first not his first race, but his first year racing, brings home a world championship and restores the honor to cigarette racing, who hadn't won since, I think it was 1999. It's hard to have that
Right.
number one world championship logo without a world championship. So they should knight Matt Soper. But then he turns around and slam dunks Elk Rapids, Michigan.
Wow.
Which is it's an amazing place. Like, when I say Michigan, people always look at me cross-eyed, and I'm like, you never been there. You got to look it up, man. Look at St. Clair. St.
Right,
Clair.
that's
So
unbelievable.
when I pulled up to St. Clair for the first time, I'm like, did we go south?
Right.
Why is the water so blue?
Right.
Like,
Wow.
And then we wound up with Michigan City. I mean, Rick Wright and Jack and the whole staff up at Michigan City. Michigan City's an amazing place. Now we got Elk Rapids up there, which Soper is not going to disappoint, dude.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I've spent some time talking with Soper now. That guy is dynamite.
Yeah, well,
that
really.
race site's going to be phenomenal.
Really?
And we got some killers, man. Just some killers laying in the midst. I mean, you look at like Fort Myers with Tim and Cindy and Mike Shepard, and you got Englewood with Ray and his enormous staff. I can't even begin
really?
to name names.
Wow.
He has more board members than we do boat racers.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
A lot of people put a lot of time into that event. It shows. I mean, have you ever been to Englewood Beach?
No, I
Man,
haven't.
I'm telling you, start now trying to plan some time before Thanksgiving next
That's
year,
what Ray was
because
saying to me, during the COVID. He was like, earlier in the COVID, it's like, you got to get down here. You got to, whatever you need to do, get down here.
Joe, there's a little bridge that you drive over to get to I guess it would be a sound or I'm not sure exactly, but Englewood Beach. And as you're going over that bridge, man, I'm telling you, it's like magic. Everything
Really?
changes. Everything about you changes. Like, you get there ready to race, right? Like, you're coming down for the World Championships, and that drive, right? You get in the
Yeah,
truck, and I don't care if it was 45 hours.
Right.
My eyes are open and I'm rolling. I'm going to the World Championships, right? You get over that bridge, and it's like, we're here.
Yeah,
and
nice.
you pull up. The pits are on the beach. Like, the beach is literally behind the pits. You walk over the
It's
little
right
thing
there.
and you're right there. There's maybe 2 or 3 bars, one or two real nice restaurants, and it's just very tight knit. Like, the second you pull in, you feel how close the community is. I mean,
Yeah.
the community is so embracing, and it's so well thought out and put together, and they really get it. You know
That's
what I mean?
awesome.
It's why, I mean, listen, man, I think everybody under the sun wants to race Key West, right? I want to race Key West. You want to race Key West. Everybody in the world wants to race Key West. But I will never, ever miss Englewood.
Right.
That
Wow.
place is,
Wow.
I can do without Key West. I
Wow.
cannot do without Englewood. That place is that good, man.
That speaks a lot, man.
And think about this, man. 74 teams. 74
phenomenal.
teams came to Englewood. It's not because they couldn't wait for the OPA
Right.
World Championships. I'm telling you, man, these guys plan their year around Englewood.
That's awesome.
When it
man.
got canceled last year, there was like, I was seeing like family members of teams that were posting like, so sad, gonna miss my
really?
Englewood trip.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, man, you gotta make
I
it.
have to make that
It's an
one, yeah.
amazing place, man.
I look forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to the future of everything, and a lot of this with me, with the powerboat racing, law enforcement. My boat represents, fallen officers, fallen gentlemen, women, everybody of every opportunity in life. My boat represents them going out there and winning again. I want to represent everybody. Just go out and have fun and enjoy life. That's it. There's nothing, we're all serious all the time because we have to be. But for a short period in time while we're out there, it's almost like a reflection of your own life. You know what? Take control, enjoy, respect each other out there, and win. Because you know what? Nobody was born to lose. Everybody wants to be a winner. And in the end, when you're all back on the dock, the boats on the trailers, we're all winners. We're all winners. We're all happy. Tomorrow, the problems will be back again with Monday through Friday working and got to get this done, got to get done. But for a short period in time, for just a moment in life, you can enjoy yourself. And when you're behind the wheel or you're under you're working the sticks, you're working those bones, for that moment, man, life is magical. It really is. It's crazy.
Do you remember when you were a kid and there was like something coming up? Like you had a big thing coming up you were super excited for. You would get like that feeling
like me today, here.
Right? And it was uncontrollable, right? That's like, I try to explain that to people. Like I was doing an interview actually in Inglewood with a young lady doing an interview with me and just kind of asking me some softball questions. And, it looks like the sea conditions are going to be big tomorrow. Are you, feeling a little nervous about it? Or, I said to her, yeah, I've been scared for 3 weeks. And that's a God's honest truth. I'm naturally scared of what we do. I mean, it's scary, but there's something that happens when you actually put the helmet on, and it's such a cliche way to say that. And I can't stress how real that is. When you take that visor and it goes dunk,
yep.
That comes back, right? I just can't wait to go, and for however long that race lasts, nothing else mattered.
No, it's crazy.
Nothing else mattered. I didn't give a shit what was happening around me. I don't care if the world was on fire. I was trying to win that race. I didn't give a shit what was going on,
Well, what's crazy too is, just so everybody knows that, and this is my perception when I'm in the boat, and first or last place, third place, fifth place, I'm always looking around for other boats. I always do look at the spectators.
Yeah, me too. It's funny you say that.
You know what? You're looking at even if race control's in the middle, Stu Slotnick or D's in the middle with the flags, you're always looking at the stadium or the people on the stands or on the beach or on the boardwalk or at the restaurant. You're always looking. I'm like, that's cool.
It is cool, man.
And it's cool. When you see all of them, you're like, thank you. Like, I'm going by going, thank you. That's why I'll take that American flag out there and I'll fly, make sure everybody knows that, hey, I thank you for being here because I'm out here because of you. If you weren't out there sponsoring us, being there, watching us, having fun, creating dreams, I wouldn't be out here either because it wouldn't be fun. I'm not out there for myself. I'm out there for everybody. I want to build dreams, build future, and let everybody have fun. Because you know what? That's what boat racing is. And from here, from the past to the future, it's all about love and everybody working together.
Right.
And I think that's really what everybody needs to do in this world is just try to all work together so we all can be happy.
Right.
It's not going to be perfect days every day, but we're going to be all right.
Well, dude, and it's funny you say that because St. Clair is one of the places that comes to mind when you think about, looking at the stands. I mean,
oh my God,
that is literally like being a superstar. I mean, I don't know if people realize how many people really show up in St. Clair. I mean, it's tens and tens of thousands of people. It's a lot of people. There's been impact studies. I mean, I have the legitimate numbers of how many people were there. It's insane.
Wow.
And when you go by that wall, I've been very fortunate in St. Clair. I've always had a good boat for that race, and I never missed the opportunity to come down that wall with the flag. And it has nothing to do with me and everything to do with them. That's not me chest pumping. That's me saying thank you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because I mean, without the fans, would there still be offshore powerboat racing? Yeah, because there's no way we wouldn't do it,
Right.
But it would be for nothing.
Right.
Other than just us having a boat ride.
But it's cool having everybody out there, man.
It is.
It's neat because if I'm not racing, I'm one of them.
And you know what's cool? You can kind of bet your ass that every person that got themselves to the beach or to the seawall or however you're watching, they all love it just as much as you do.
Yeah.
That's the awesome thing about the powerboat racing fan base is that they're as invested as we are.
Yeah.
There's fans that I get in conversations with, and I say fans, really, most people surrounding racing have been involved in some facet or another throughout the course of their life, or they knew somebody who was in the racing, or so it's usually an educated conversation with a fan. It's not usually like a educating seminar. It's more like a conversation. And I learn something every time I talk to people. Oh, no, this guy ran that boat, or this boat won that race. And I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know that. Like how I didn't know your boat was the one from right next door.
Right
you
next
know,
door, right?
like,
How about that?
Yeah. So,
I hate when I get somebody like yourself that comes up and says, hey, what do you got there? I'm like, oh, I got a 598 cubic inch, 701 horsepower motor. Oh, yeah? What kind of block? What kind of exhaust? Oh, hey, Jimmy, how you doing? I don't know. I changed the oil. I changed the plugs. What kind of plugs? Oh, yeah, I got you, sir. How you doing? You guys know it. Oh, well, I'm drilling this over that, because that's your profession. You're an expert, and I have no idea. I go, you know what? I got XR gears in the top and XR gears in the bottom. One day I put the wrong prop on and going forward with reverse. Is that okay? Chuck, I'm about to race Manilokin. Is it all right if I'm in the reverse forward? Yeah, you got the same gears. Thanks, Chuck. Then you get the guy that doesn't know, like me, that and you learn as time goes on. You have to do it. In order to work on a boat, and you have to start learning.
You just got to do it.
You have to, otherwise you're not going to afford it.
And really, the best way to learn is I worked here my whole life. I mean, ever since I had a way to get here, I worked here, right? And I didn't really start learning. I knew how to do most shit. I mean, I bottom paint a boat, change a water pump. I could do all the run of the mill stuff. I didn't really learn until I had my own boat. Like working on that green boat all those years, it was like my brother and my old man put me through it. You know, you got to do it. You got to do it. And that's when I really started to learn, because it wasn't so confusing. It wasn't like I'm working on a Sea Ray and then tomorrow I'm working on a Baja, and then I knew that boat. Right. I knew that boat inside and out. I was invested in that boat. I loved that boat. So it really gave me an opportunity to, learning's always kind of tough, but it's really, really easy when you enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It sticks.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
So, that's the best way to learn, man. It's just start, when shit starts breaking, take it apart.
Yeah, you're
take
right.
it apart. What's the worst case scenario? You can't put it back together?
Yeah. And that's what I'm
right
for
here.
everybody. Well, you had it. I brought it when, and again, here, you guys made Lake Apacong that last time that happened for me. My mother was very sick. She was in the hospital. She's doing well now, but last year at this time when we had the Lake Apacong race, it was very hard times for me. In and out of hospital, my mother was on a respirator, and Al's like, "You're gonna run the boat." I'm like, "No." He brought the boat over here. You guys, next thing you know, you're sending me a video of my boat. Boom, boom, in slow motion. Boom, boom. I'm like, wow, look at this. And you know what? And
the funny thing is, I went to Giant Stadium to get that alternator.
Did you really?
Dude, I was laughing. I'm like, you're lucky I love you, buddy.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Well, it's the Giants at least,
That's it, man. Wow. I got to go see my buddies.
But you guys made it happen for me, and I enjoyed it. As soon as that race was over,
that's what's
it was going to happen, because your dad told me it was pouring that morning. Remember, it was pouring. No, we're racing. And then D coming up to, where's Ed? I go, I don't know. I guess you guys broke down in a Viper. And Tim's like, you want me to get your helmet? I'm like, yeah, please. I didn't even know we got third. Next thing I'm in the hospital, sitting next to my mom. Tim and your dad sent me a picture of third place. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I put a smile on my face, and that's what it does. And people don't realize it. Racing does that. And then, you're back to life. But, man, that's why I do these silly things. Like Darren Dubrow is a buddy of mine. He owns a printing company, I guess. Vinyl. He's the first guy that did my wrap for me and made all the logos and everything. And he does a great job. It's called Sign Me Up in East Hanover now. This, to me, was awesome. Like, you just get a water bottle and you put your logo on it and you hand it out to people at the pits, and you see people drinking your water. Like, this is cool, I told you it's time for water now. But it's cool because it's marketing. It's just, there's no money being made on it. It's just cool to see. Like, I have it on my desk at work. I can wear the hat around. When I first started the business, the logo was everything to me. And I'll never forget, I think Patinoid was the one, look, logo is everything, because you see Apple, you don't need to see the word Apple. You see the logo Apple.
Right.
Same thing. You see Volvo, you see Audi. You don't need to see. I'm like, Hurricane. So what is it? It's the Calico Jack with 2 torn Hurricane flags on it. Now, you don't need to see Hurricane. It's there. I'm like, yeah, that works. I'm not making money on it, but it works. It looks cool.
Right.
But it's neat. But I like to share it. So, I think everything was, again, I love this. I appreciate everything that you and your family and the OPA and everybody involved in the OPA. Again, rescue teams, first aid, Stu Slotnick, race control. He busts my chops even in law enforcement. All of a sudden, I hear over the air 99. All my different numbers 567 66. I'm like, wait a minute. We're at the MTV Music Awards in Newark, and I hear 991-216-667-567 race control. I'm like, Stu, what's up, buddy? It's pretty cool. But I really appreciate everything, and I'm glad you had me on. I just everything's gonna be good, man. I think we're gonna have a good end of 2020. Don't worry about politics. Look, that's above our pay grade. There's nothing we can do about it. Pro or against, don't worry about it. We have our own lives. We can march forward. We all will be positive. We'll make it through. And one of the biggest things I want to tell you about, in case this is airing this week, there is a chance of a snowstorm here in New Jersey. So for all our local weather people here in New Jersey, even as far south as Cape May, Monday, this is probably airing, so I'm either going to be wrong or right, doesn't matter, I don't get paid for this, rain and snow with some accumulation. But Wednesday and Thursday, maybe the snow to look out for. So if this is Monday airing or Tuesday, watch tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday. Accumulating snow coming your way from the meteorologist, Hurricane Force.
Well, no, thanks, buddy, and I appreciate you coming in, man. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And yeah, we will get through this, man. Smooth skis never made a skilled sailor. We'll be all right.
Yep.
We'll be all right.
As
We're
Governor
moving
Murphy
forward.
would say, we're not out of the woods yet.
Switching gears. Thanks for coming in, buddy. I appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody.